Everybody out there in the wide world, welcome back into the Star Wipe Lounge, where today we are going to be reviewing the latest Quentin Tarantino flick, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I am John Aldrich, and with me as always is the indestructible Owen Poole.
Indestructible. I like your ever-changing descriptions.
Well,
you have a different adjective every week.
I'm trying to mix it up, as it were. So yeah, this week we're talking about this Quentin Tarantino joint. You know, his 9th movie, as all the marketing.
Yes, they really wanted to tell us that it was his 9th movie.
Well, because he came out and said that he's only going to make 10 movies.
Okay,
so that's why they're like making such a big deal about all this.
Does his half of Grindhouse count? I don't think it does.
I don't think it does, and I also don't think that he's doing this Star Trek film. I don't think that's going to count either. I think he's like 10 original movies.
Right.
Is kind of the thing. So yeah, this being his 9th is supposed to be a big deal because it's like, this is the penultimate
Tarantino movie.
So, you know, that's like Daniel Day-Lewis saying he's done acting. Is he really though?
We'll see.
So, all right. So let's just dive into this with our usual spiel. We do a TLDR review at the beginning, then we talk spoiler free. Then when we get into the spoiler section, we'll be sure to just like throw out their spoiler warning. We saw this movie Thursday night.
Yep.
So we've had some time to stew on it. But O-Dog, give me your TLDR review.
TLDR review. I thought that this movie was really smart and very meta in its own way, and was very well written and well performed. Well performed for the actors who actually got an opportunity to perform. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But my biggest complaint about it is that I really, really, really felt that runtime.
I feel like we're kind of in agreement largely on a lot of those points. The acting was spectacular. The writing was, I mean, it's Tarantino writing, so it's always going to be pretty top notch. I will say that I was disappointed by the climax of the film, mainly just because of a lot of stuff that they were building to, and then they like pull a switcheroo that I wasn't not expecting it because it's Tarantino, but at the same time I was kind of interested to see what they were building to.
I actually really like that part.
That to me was a bummer, but overall good film. You know, as I said, it's a Tarantino film. I have qualms with him as a director, but I've never not enjoyed his movies.
This is what I said to some of my coworkers when I walked in on Friday, because a lot of my coworkers were really interested in seeing the movie, and I said that this one will probably be nobody's favorite Tarantino movie, but it'll probably be in the upper half.
Yeah, it might actually be my favorite.
Really?
When I think about it, yeah.
Well, I just got proven wrong just now.
Yeah, although a lot of Tarantino's films are really close for me.
Yeah.
So like it's hard to. It's one of those things where like ask me tomorrow what's my favorite Tarantino film, and I'll probably give you a different answer. But you know, that's just my thought on. So now we're gonna get into the spoiler free section, which is where we kind of just talk in generalities and we dive into basically our TLDRs a little bit deeper. And then, as I said, we'll give you a warning when we get into the spoiler section. So don't worry about that. So, Owen, you specifically pointed out the performances.
Yes.
And you said that you seemingly hinted that there was one person who didn't really get to perform.
Yes. Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate didn't have anything to do.
This is true.
That's probably my biggest issue. My two biggest issues with the movie is her the treatment of her character and the runtime, because they made a big deal about her in the movie. Sharon Tate's obviously has historical significance as a person in actual historical Hollywood. It's still something that we talk about today. and yeah, she didn't get to do anything.
No, she kind of just airheaded around and smiled.
Yeah, which is kind of a bummer because Margot Robbie's very good.
Yeah, she's a great actress, has proven in situations such as I, Tonya. She can play the airhead pretty well, as we saw in this film and in movies like Suicide Squad. But I agree, she didn't really get too much of an opportunity to do anything.
But the people who did get opportunities to do stuff, i.e. Leo and Brad Pitt, they were fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Brad Pitt totally carried this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Leo did a good job, but Brad Pitt hoisted this picture onto his back and carried it.
Well, when you write like the coolest character,
yeah,
like Tarantino's like, okay, I'm gonna write this character for Brad Pitt. He's gonna be the most fucking cool and the most fucking capable and the most badass. And that even at 55, Brad Pitt is way hotter than you'll ever be. Sorry.
Speak for yourself, bruh.
So, I mean,
people who are only listening to this podcast, and have never seen me, they might think that I'm the hottest person on the planet. I don't know.
And yeah, there's one particular scene that we can get into because I feel like that is a spoilery bit. But there's one scene toward the middle of the movie that was probably my favorite sequence in the entire thing, and it was mostly on him.
Yeah.
To really carry that whole affair.
Of course, but as I said, Leo does a spectacular job in his own way because he plays this very down on his luck, sort of has-been actor.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And he really sells the kind of emotional damage that comes with being somebody who is literally watching their dreams and their aspirations fall out of their hands.
Yeah, he reminded me very much of BoJack from BoJack Horseman.
Yeah,
especially there's a shot of him early on in the movie. He's rehearsing some lines, and he's floating in his pool with headphones on, rehearsing lines.
Because he has a tape recording of someone else doing the other lines, so that he can continue doing the scene.
Yeah, and his whole character reminded me that specific shot was very BoJack Horseman because that's something that's in the BoJack Horseman intro.
Yeah,
but just he's a relic of a different time period.
Yeah, because this film is set in the 60s.
69.
And he's an actor who had his heyday
in the 50s.
In the 50s on cowboy television shows and stuff. Bounty Law, yeah. He seemed almost like a John Wayne-esque figure, but younger.
Yeah, John Wayne-esque. Because he was in a bunch of war movies. He was in all these westerns.
Yeah,
and then he was in a western TV show that he's most well known for, and he just continues to do westerns, and that's all he does.
But now he's playing he's being cast as the bad guy. Who Al Pacino points out. This is pretty early on in the film, so I'm not going to consider it a spoiler.
Yeah.
Al Pacino points out that networks will cast a former lead from a television show to be the bad guy in a new television show to make the new lead look better than the old lead.
Yeah.
As even though you're not playing the same character, audiences will infer that it's the old character getting his ass beat down by this new guy.
And then you do that enough times and you're a total has-been.
Yeah. Because then you're just Hollywood's punching bag.
Yeah. And one of the more interesting things about the Rick Dalton character to me is that he could have been written as someone who just didn't give a shit, and he didn't even bother trying to learn his lines, and he gave no fucks about his performance and whatever. This is in the trailer, so again, not a spoiler. When the little girl whispers to him, "That was the best acting I've ever seen in my whole life," that's after he screws up a couple takes of a scene,
and he goes back to his trailer and just fucking has it in with himself.
He freaks the fuck out. I love seeing Leo freak out in Tarantino movies.
Oh yeah, it's great.
It's fabulous.
It's fabulous. I especially liked how he was like screaming at his reflection, like, if you fuck this up, I will kill you. I'll put a bullet in your head. I'll blow your fucking brains out.
It was so good, but yeah, like that character. I feel like the archetype of the, washed up actor character is someone who just doesn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
But he cares a lot, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. And especially after his interaction with the little girl.
Yeah. Because she's serious.
She is serious. She's like, I only stay in character. Like, I don't break. I do everything I can to eliminate inefficiencies in acting to try to do like the best job that I can. And she's like just a bit part in this TV show. Yeah. She's like just like a little random girl character, but she's like on it and like owning it. And yeah, he does just a great job because you really buy him as somebody who, he has a dream and he wants to do it. And
he wants to continue to be the,
he wants
the Hollywood guy. Like there's a great line early on in the movie when he's like going back to his house and he's like, when you come to LA, like you have to buy, you can't rent, because if you rent, then
you're just passing through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if you buy a house, you live here, you are from LA.
Yeah. And that was like his thing. Like he did not want to give that up. Yeah. Although at the end of the film, it's kind of left in the air, his future. Yeah, that to me is one of the more interesting parts of the movie. Yeah, which we'll get to in the spoiler section, because there is like a revelation at the end of the film that kind of infers that things are going to pick up a little bit. Yeah, but, it's still, as I said, left in the air largely. But yeah, so, and just I feel like a lot of Rick Dalton and Cliff, the two lead characters, a lot of their strength and their presence obviously comes from the writing, which is in typical Tarantino form, is spot on. The dialogue is exactly what you want. I will say that there was nothing about the dialogue that necessarily was groundbreaking to me. Like, no. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't specifically think of lines that I feel like I'm going to be quoting. Like it's not a Pulp Fiction kind of situation. No, there's not like bad motherfucker wallets or anything. Yeah. It's all relatively grounded. Yeah, I mean, this is one of Tarantino's more like normal. Yeah, films? Yeah. Like it's kind of just a comedy, right? Yeah, with some sprinkled in dramatic bits. Yeah, it's very much it's a comedy that utilizes a very specific period in time historically, and like your knowledge of what is going on there to sort of play with some of the tropes and archetypes that you saw around that time. And also gave Tarantino an excuse to throw in like a lot of like historical Hollywood characters. Like we've got Roman Polanski's in the film, and Bruce Lee is in the film and has like a wonderful scene with Brad Pitt's character. I love that scene. Yeah. That scene is fabulous. And just, there's obviously Sharon Tate's in there and Jay Allen and all these like these people who actually existed in time and like are sort of Hollywood legends. And you got to kind of play with them a little bit, which is pretty good. It's a thing he likes to do, like taking some like new characters he creates and sticking them in a real life historical scenario, i.e. Inglourious Bastards. Yeah. It's kind of his way of doing things. But do you think that you're ready to head into spoiler talk a little bit? I think so. Okay. So this is your official warning. We are heading on into the spoiler territory of our discussion. If you have not seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I would say pause this podcast right now, go to the theater, check it out, and then come back and finish this up. So that was your spoiler warning. We are starting spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this film continues Tarantino's trend of introducing a historical event, building up to said historical event, and then just shitting on said historical event. Yeah, so obviously if you know anything about the background of this movie, you know that
the Manson family
murders is a central point of the film. And Sharon Tate does not die.
In fact, the Manson family murders just straight up do not happen.
They don't happen. Because Brad Pitt kills them.
Because Brad Pitt kills the hippies. Because the hippies that are going up to go see, they're going up there they're going to go kill Tate and everybody at the house. So Rick Dalton lives down the hill from that house.
He lives next door.
It's kind of like, because the Tate house is a little bit higher up. So they're next door, but it's...
Next door, but they're neighbors.
It's in the Hollywood Hills, so like there's elevation differences. Point is, he's like right next to them, and the hippies drive up, and he runs outside.
A loud car.
And kind of confronts them about the fact that their car is really loud. And so the hippies decide like, hey, let's kill Rick Dalton too. Like, let's just go murder him first. And so like they break into his house, and there's Brad Pitt tripping on an acid dip cigarette, and even while tripping on acid, him and his dog team up John Wick style to like fucking decimate these hippies.
Yeah.
And even Rick Dalton gets in a good lick when he busts out a fucking flamethrower and roasts the upper half of one of the hippies.
Oh man, this is fucking absurd.
It's such a Tarantino ending.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Just you get this film that's super grounded, super down to earth, and then suddenly, literally, the most violent thing that could possibly have happened in that moment happens.
Well, I love that they set up the flamethrower too.
Yeah,
because early in the film, he's talking to Al Pacino, who is trying to convince him
to go do spaghetti westerns.
In Italy.
Yeah.
Because he's like, hey, you're getting kind of washed up now. I can get you easy parts in these films in Italy and blah, 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 blah.
You'll be big over there.
You'll be huge. And he talks about this like World War II movie he did, and he like roasts, you see it in the trailer, he like roasts all these Nazis with a flamethrower. And he goes into detail about how he learned to use said flamethrower.
Yeah. How he spent like 3 weeks, like 3 hours a day, every day for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Specifically using the flamethrower.
Yeah. He's out in the back in his pool, like listening to something while Brad Pitt is dealing with the Manson family, and one of the dog is just fucking this girl up, like ripping her apart,
and tearing into her,
and then she like runs through the glass sliding door into the pool, and Rick Dalton was like, "Oh my god, what the fuck?"
Yeah, because he was in the pool like listening to his headphones, just like chilling. He's completely unaware of everything going on inside the house, and then this hippie chick just bursts through, and
so he just like he crawls out of the pool and he like goes to his shed while she's
at first you think maybe he's just gonna go hide in the shed.
And then he just pulls out his fucking flamethrower.
He just like, you see like his feet walking out, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh shit, he has a flamethrower, doesn't he? And he totally just has the flamethrower, and he just lights this chick up. Like, he doesn't even wonder like why she's there or like what the fuck is going on. He just like, his immediate reaction is flamethrower. Let's roast her.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
But like, as entertaining as the end of that film was, and like as down as I was to see it, I still feel a little unsatisfied about the fact that, like, here's this film, it's building up to the Manson family murders.
Yeah.
Like, everything is pointing to that's going to happen. And, like, in Hollywood, we haven't had a lot of representations of the Manson family murders. For something that's been so famous, we haven't really seen it in cinema too much. We've seen films that have been inspired by it. You have films such as The Strangers, which was actually specifically based upon the Manson family murders. You've had films like that, but you've never actually seen it. And so I was kind of interested to see how would this play out, on screen.
Yeah.
But then it just doesn't happen because it's a Tarantino film.
Well, that was the thing for me. I thought that was super interesting because, like, there was one particular sequence I was thinking about a lot. That while I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is going on a while. I'm kind of confused as to why this is still happening. So there's a lot, and early on in the film, there's a lot of driving shots.
Yeah,
like there's a sequence where they like Brad Pitt and Leo are driving back to his place, and there's the camera's behind them as they're driving up.
A very like Tarantino shot where the camera's like put like in the back seat and you just see the driver's heads.
Yeah.
He does that a couple of times in the movie.
And so there's like there's one where they're driving up to his place, and then
there's the one where Brad Pitt goes home.
Brad Pitt goes home and he's driving, and then Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski are driving, and I was kind of confused by that. And then I thought about it more and more, and it seemed like to me what they were trying to do was kind of weave these characters together loosely.
Yeah.
That they're all like together in this, that they're all together in this space, and this story is going to like, we're going to have the Sharon Tate stuff with them involved somehow.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, it's like what you expect to happen. But then this isn't a Manson Family Murders movie though. Like it's a movie like when Brad Pitt drops Leo off at his house, Leo notices, oh shit, that's Roman fucking Polanski who lives right next to me. He just directed Rosemary's Baby. He's fucking huge.
Yeah.
Maybe this could be my window back in. Maybe I'm neighbors with Roman Polanski. Maybe I can meet him and then I can get back in.
Yeah. Which at the end of the film, the only time that Sharon Tate really factors into the overarching plot of the film at all is the very last moment of the film.
Yeah.
Because like obviously all the hippies got killed at Rick Dalton's house, and so the police are there and like the ambulances are picking people up and everything, and the people at Sharon Tate's house are like really curious, like
what the fuck happened?
What the fuck happened? Like, are you okay and everything? And Sharon Tate winds up inviting Rick Dalton up to the house to like have a drink,
and that's
like,
the end of the movie.
And that's the end of the film. Is he goes up and like the only interaction that Margot Robbie has with the main cast is she hugs Leo at the end of the film.
Yeah.
And like we see like an overhead shot of her doing that, and then they walk in the house, and that's the end of the film. Like Sharon Tate literally existed just for that one moment.
And to trick the audience. Yeah. There was someone on Twitter who was singing the praises of this movie and had some gripes, and there was someone who astutely pointed out that Margot Robbie's character is just a red herring for the audience the entire time. Like that's her function in the movie,
that is literally
which is a bummer.
She serves as a red herring and as an excuse for Quentin Tarantino to put another pair of feet in the foreground of a shot.
I mean, the only scene, there was a good scene with her when she like goes to a bookstore to pick up a book, and then she sees that the movie that she's in is playing at the theater, and she goes and watches it and has a great time. That was a really good scene because it, gave her something to do, and it's meaningful too, because that was her dreams to be an actress, and she actually gets to see herself on screen.
And on top of that, she kind of plays as a dynamic difference to Rick Dalton, because she's an actress who's kind of early on in her career.
Yeah. And
she's, basically is only going to go up, and he is very much at the end of his career, nowhere to go but down, basically. And so,
I think that was an interesting juxtaposition there.
Yeah, but that was a moment where I was taken out of the film because the feet, and I was reminded that I'm watching a Tarantino film because there's some dirty ass fucking feet in my face. Which, by the way, why were they dirty? She was wearing shoes.
You can get dirty feet wearing shoes with no socks on.
I mean, I guess, but they looked like she had been like walking through mud. Like they looked as bad as the hippies' feet. But like it was a moment where I was like watching that film and I was like into it, and like, obviously I'm immersed in the film. Like my focus is on the film, and then I see the feet in the foreground and I go, oh yeah, it's a Tarantino film. And then suddenly I'm back, I'm in the theater, and I'm like, well, that took me out of the movie.
Another thing I saw on Twitter that was hysterical. It's like, this is my spoiler-free. This is a spoiler-free tweet about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. All I'll say is that Quentin Tarantino multiple times had to say the phrase, "Make sure that young lady's bare feet are in focus."
Yeah. Yup. Because he does it again with a hippie later on.
Yes.
Which leads up to probably my favorite sequence of the film.
The one where he goes to the ranch?
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene
is at Spawn Ranch.
Fucking great.
Because, so Brad Pitt gives this hippie girl, Pussycat is her name, because they wanted to get in a "we love pussy" joke. Because, class. He gives her a lift to Spawn Ranch, where all the Manson family were living.
It's also where they
filmed Bounty Law.
Which historically that was a place where they did shoot those types of shows. Yeah, a lot
of cowboy television shows and stuff like that were shot there. And he goes there and he realizes, like, hey, I know this place. I know the dude who owns this place. Are you guys supposed to be here?
Yeah.
Like, are you taking advantage of this old man? Like, what's happening? And so, like, there's this very tense sequence where, like, he's like, I'm going to go into that house and I'm going to talk to George. And, like, they're doing everything they can to get him to not talk to George.
Yeah.
And, like, as an audience member, you're sitting there and you're like, George is fucking dead.
I assumed he was dead.
Like, they killed him or something, and Brad Pitt's about to walk into this back room, and he's going to find a dead-ass old man.
And then they're going to kill him.
They're gonna kill him, or they're going to try to kill him, and, like, shit's going to go down. I was like, for sure, this is how Brad Pitt exits the movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's going to get stabbed by, like, 80 fucking like,
there is one thing that Tarantino does super well is, like, high-tension scenes like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think my all-time favorite Tarantino scene is the bar scene in Inglourious Bastards.
So I'd say the opening of Inglourious Bastards, but they're both kind of in the same vein.
They're like 1A, 1B.
Yeah, basically.
And even like that whole movie is basically just super tense dialogue scenes, and then, oftentimes involving
Nazis.
Yeah, oftentimes involving Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
But this scene reminded me of that a lot. Like there's a particular shot where he like goes up to the house to like try and get in so he can talk to George, the guy who owns the place, and he like looks back and they're all like they're like standing between him and his car, just like staring at him. That shot was chilling.
That was a good shot. But then he goes in there and the old man's just asleep and he's blind and he's just fucking this one hippie girl.
Dakota Fanning,
yeah, which was hilarious.
that was Dakota Fanning, yeah.
And it was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, there's tension for with no payoff.
Well, but there was a sum at the end because he leaves. He's like, I'm gonna leave now. See you. And then
after beating the fuck out of one of the hippies.
Yeah, so one of the hippies like slashes his tire for his car. And
he's like, that's my boss's car, not my car.
He's like, well, luckily for you, I have a spare.
Fix it.
Yeah, he fix it. He's like, no. And he like beats the fucking shit out of him. And he's like, fix it.
Yeah. Like he just breaks the fuck out of this dude's face.
Yeah.
And I love the moment the hippie turns to him and he's like, can I at least like wipe my face off? He's just like, no.
Nope.
Like, fix his car, man.
Yeah, I think that scene was my favorite. We saw it with Katie.
Yeah.
And when I think she like audibly gasped at one point for one specific shot.
She didn't just audibly gasp. She like said out loud, "Oh shit."
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Hard to top that scene.
Yeah, no, that to me was the highlight. But the problem with that film is that was a sequence that was shoved dead in the middle of probably the like slowest part of this movie. This movie is a long film, and it definitely drags right in the middle, like pretty hard.
Yeah, I remember. It started. I try to remember the moments where I like feel like, okay, can we get this going? Like it was, even though it was a great scene. It was when Leo's going to the set of that show so he can play the bad guy for Timothy Olyphant. At a certain point, I think when he was having the conversation with the little girl actress or actor. Not actress.
Yeah, because she specifically said actress is ridiculous.
Yeah, which she's right.
She's not wrong.
At that point, I was just like, because those scenes in the trailer, like I wanted to see those scenes in the trailer, and I'm like, can he start shooting this thing now? I really, really want to see this.
Yeah.
even though the dialogue scene with her was great.
It was a good scene, but it was one of those things where I was sitting there and I was like, all right, like, can we just move on?
I want to see him shoot the scene, and I want her to tell him that that's the best acting she's ever seen,
so that we can see Leo cry again.
Yeah.
Rick fucking Dalton. Yeah, there was just, I feel like that's just kind of a symptom of Tarantino's style of doing stories.
Very long dialogue scenes.
Where very long dialogue scenes, and then just on top of that, like, kind of plotting storylines. Where, like, honestly, if you were to ask, like, what's the plot of this film, I think it would just be like, yeah, it's a couple of days of an actor's life.
Yeah, kind of.
Like, the conflict comes up in, like, the last 20 minutes of the film.
Well, I mean, the conflict is very internal. It's Leo's, like...
But I mean, like, any of the external conflict that they're hinting at throughout the film. But then, like, it only really becomes a thing in the last 20 minutes.
Even though it's totally unrelated, can we talk about the Bruce Lee scene?
Oh, the Bruce Lee scene, yeah.
That was hysterical.
Which was a flashback inside a flashback, I'd like to point out.
Flashback in a flashback.
Because
he's fixing the antenna on the roof.
He's fixing the antenna, and he's, like, thinking back to the fact that Leo told him when he asked, like, hey, could you talk to somebody about getting me some work? Leo was like, oh, yeah, it's connected to this Randy guy, probably not worth it. And then he, like, flashes back to why it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Which was the whole Bruce Lee sequence.
Yeah, so, yeah, the Bruce Lee's doing this whole thing about how he could, like, kick the shit out of Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and, like, all the, like, boxers and stuff.
Yeah, he was talking about I think he was talking about this is back when Muhammad Ali was named Cassius Clay. He's talking about a match with Sonny Liston, and he's like, boxing is such a great sport. When I do, like, martial arts competitions, we can't, like, go at each other full bore, and I would love to do that. I would, like, I'm fucking Bruce Lee.
I would murder Cassius Clay.
And then Brad Pitt just kind of laughs at him, and he's like, oh, you think that's funny, dude? You think it's fucking funny? I'll fucking kill you. And then they're like, let's have a friendly competition of let's fight but not go full on, which is what Bruce Lee was wanting in the first place. Yeah,
he specifically said, like,
will not go for the face.
No, nothing in the face.
And whoever can knock the other person down twice wins.
Or twice or three times, something like that.
And he does, like, a jumping kick, knocks him down immediately.
And Brad Pitt's just like, all right, try it again.
And then he, like, knocks him into a fucking car.
Yeah, he, like, Bruce Lee, like, goes to kick him again, and he, like, catches the leg and just throws him into a car and just, like,
it.
Fucking, like, doesn't just dent it, like, completely folds in the door.
Which, and then he just pops back up and...
Yeah, Bruce Lee's just like, whatever.
Then they start fighting.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think I said this in our spoiler-free section, that Tarantino just wrote the most capable, badass character, that he was going toe-to-toe with Bruce Lee in a fucking fight.
Yeah, because say what you will about Bruce Lee, that dude was not a joke.
No. Like, I don't care how good of a stuntman you are, I don't see you... Because after he throws him into the car, they kind of, like, go at each other.
Yeah, they kind of spar for a little bit before Kurt Russell's wife shows up and is, like, fucking pissed off. She's pissed just in general because Brad Pitt's there.
Yeah, can we talk about that?
The seemingly inconsequential detail that Brad Pitt
killed his wife.
Allegedly killed his wife.
Allegedly.
Like you don't know if he actually did or if it was just, like, an accident. Because they show, like, his wife being just, like, the queen of all bitches.
On a boat.
And
he's holding a harpoon gun.
He's holding a harpoon gun, but the harpoon gun is not loaded.
Still.
There's a point where it's like the harpoon gun is not loaded, but it is pointing at her. And it's just kind of, but then they cut away before you see anything.
Yeah. And so basically everyone in the industry thinks he killed his wife and got away with it.
Which, by the way, I will give Tarantino some credit for some, like, a rare moment of restraint from Tarantino, not showing Brad Pitt just fucking murdering his wife.
Yeah, that I didn't really get that.
I feel like it was basically just there to have conflict with Kurt Russell.
Well, I think it was
explain
why he's not getting work.
Why he's not getting work. Why this inhumanly capable stuntman is not getting work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, because like you get the impression that they're both like on the downward spirals of their career, and despite the fact that they're both still really, really capable, like we said before, like Leo, like the Rick Dalton character, like is a good actor,
and he shows it.
Yeah,
a couple of times.
And I forgot his last name. Cliff is Brad Pitt's character's name.
Yeah, I don't remember his character's last name.
Anyway, like he is extremely capable still as a stuntman, but they're both kind of old.
But yeah, it's just his character is very much like just the perfect stuntman, and so they had to give him like a tiny little detail.
Yeah, it was a strange detail that I remember when it happened in the movie. I was like, oh, this is probably going to factor into things.
Like this is going to be a big character point.
Not really.
And then a couple people mention it a couple of times, and that's about it.
Yeah. Strange.
But yeah. So any other like major moments that you want to point out, or major points that you feel need to be touched upon?
I think for those of you thinking that Charles Manson's going to be a character in this movie, he is not.
He literally shows up for like 5 seconds.
It has like 2 lines.
Has 2 lines, and then he's gone.
And you barely even see his face.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like indicative of what the Manson murders were like, because he didn't actually, if I remember correctly, he did not participate in any of them.
He was not there at all.
Yeah. So that makes sense for him not to really be in the movie.
Yeah.
He gets mentioned by Pussycat the most.
Yeah, because she says like, "Oh, I wish you could meet Charlie.
Charlie's really gonna dig you.
Charlie's really gonna dig you."
Yeah, I mean, I knew the basic story of the Manson family murders. I do remember back when Mad Men was finishing its run, there was a lot of speculation that the Manson family was going to factor into the series finale. It did not. There's just a lot of fascination with it, and I can see the disappointment in not getting that at all much in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the most interaction you get is that one Brad Pitt scene that we talked about at length.
Yeah.
I could see the disappointment in not getting that, but then again, that's not ultimately what the story is about, despite the fact that it never lets you forget that they're there.
Yeah, it's constantly poking that bear.
Yeah.
And then the bear never wakes up.
Yeah. Though, can we talk about the little dialogue between all the Manson family people in the car before they decide they're going to go kill Rick?
Yeah, where they're like, that was Rick Dalton. I grew up watching him on Bounty Law.
Yeah.
I had a Bounty Law toy.
A Bounty Law lunchbox.
I had a Bounty Law lunchbox.
That was interesting to me.
Yeah, because it humanized people who, as society, like, we don't humanize murderers.
No, usually. I mean, to me, the interesting part was like what it says about like our culture.
Well, yeah, because one of them specifically points out, like, we grew up watching murders and they taught us how to murder, so why don't we murder the people who taught us how to murder? Yeah,
I mean, the whole point of the bounty, they make a whole point.
Bro, I heard you yo dog, I heard you really like murder.
Yeah, like on Bounty Law, you see a couple scenes, and
it specifically points out that like
he never brings people back alive.
He never brings people back alive, because trying to bring people back alive is amateur.
Yeah,
like he just kills them,
indiscriminately kills,
to the point that they call him bounty killer.
Yeah,
like they don't call him bounty hunter; he's bounty killer.
Yeah, yeah. That scene was really interesting. I did love I forgot her name. She's Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's daughter,
Maya
Hawke.
Yeah, I think it's Maya Hawke.
Who was in season 3 of Stranger Things. This is the first thing I've seen her in.
Yeah.
And she was in that movie for like 5 minutes, maybe no 2 minutes,
something like that. Yeah,
because they they decide, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna go kill Rick Dalton, and then they start walking up the hill, and she's like, oh, I
left my knife back in the car.
Can I get the keys? And then she just takes off.
Yeah, she just bails.
Which is pretty great.
Which should have been the first sign that this wasn't going to historically follow, because I believe there were 3 women involved in the murders. And so like suddenly one just exits, stage left. And suddenly it's like, okay, well, I guess we're doing shit differently now.
Yeah.
I kind of just expected the movie to end with the hippies go to Rick's place, they murder everybody there, and then they go do the Manson family murders. Like, I kind of just expected the film to end with Leo and Brad and Leo's Italian wife and even the fucking dog just being, like, fucking butchered. And then it's just like, what happens.
Yeah.
After that.
But the dog, though. Yeah, that was kind of John Wick-esque with the dog.
Because, like, Brad Pitt's, like, beating the shit out of one of them, and he just, like, and points at another one, and the dog just, like, runs over and starts, like, fucking chowing down.
Yeah, on that dude's junk.
Yeah. And then, like, meanwhile, he's, like, slamming that girl's face into literally everything in the house. To the point that, like, that she just doesn't have a face anymore. Especially when he's slamming her into the, like, fireplace mantle, it looks like the face is, like, wrapping around the mantle.
Yeah.
So it's like she just doesn't have a face anymore.
Yeah.
You don't see it, but, like, at one point he, like, stops and he looks at her and then, like, drops her. But, like, you as an audience member don't see what he sees.
Yeah, and they set it up so well that they would be killed because
because he's like fucking...
He's tripping balls.
He's tripping balls on an acid-dip cigarette. Which, by the way, can we talk about the fact that shit cost him 50 cents?
It's the 60s.
Like, you want to talk about, like, inflation hitting the cost of living. Like, no.
Cost of drugs.
It's like fucking... The cost of drugs is suffering the most under inflation. But, not that I would know how much acid would cost today.
Also, anyways. They were both drunk. But also, I assumed that they'd be okay because of the dog. Because they established early on in the movie the dog is really, really, really well trained. Yeah. Like, really well trained.
Because there's a sequence in Brad Pitt's house where he's like...
His disgusting trailer.
It's disgusting ass trailer. That being said, probably still outside of our price range in terms of
Los Angeles, for sure.
LA costs. Yeah, he like... Because he feeds the dog 2 cans of dog food and then dry food. And so, like, he drops 1 can into the bowl, and then the dog whines a little bit, and he's like, hey, I told you no whining.
Or you don't eat.
I don't want to throw it out, but I will. And so, like, the dog, like, sits there, like, perfectly behaved, as you said. So, yeah, it's...
Good dog.
Good doggo. Really pretty doggy, too. Like, pit bulls... People sleep on pit bulls in terms of, like, finding them cute, but that's a cute dog.
Yeah.
It's a real cute dog. But, yeah, so that's just basically kind of our thoughts on the film. Owen, do you have, like, a closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, on the whole, really enjoyed it. It made me think about stuff after the movie was over. I have my complaints, my definite complaints. I think that Margot Robbie's character, her as an actress and her character was just kind of
completely underutilized. And the runtime was a bit much. Like, they do a time jump at a certain point, like after he films like 6 months
after he films that pilot. Had I remembered the actual dates of the Manson murders, I probably could have predicted a time jump.
Yeah, because they point out, like,
what the dates are
quite a few times.
Had I remembered the actual historical dates, I probably would have anticipated the time skip.
Yeah, I only just remembered the year.
But I remember when they did the time skip, I was like, ugh.
Fuck, it's still going.
Yeah.
But, yeah. For me, like, so I've said on the podcast before that I have qualms with Tarantino as a director. I don't necessarily think that he should be held to as high of regard as he's often held. But that being said, as I said, I've always just enjoyed his stuff. And this is an enjoyable enough film. As Owen said, it has its problems. Pacing's a bit wonky. The fact that you have all these historical characters who then just don't really get to do anything, Sharon Tate included, is a bit of a bummer. But beyond that, it's a solid enough film, and I think definitely worth checking out at full price. Even I will say you don't have to catch this.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you are a fan of Tarantino in any way, go see it.
If you're a fan of Tarantino's work, you've probably already seen it.
Yeah. So even if you're not, it's not his usual fare.
It's true. This was a very
it's more grounded. It's not as violent.
As I said, this is a film where Tarantino actually showed restraint.
Yes.
So good on him for that. So anyways, guys, we want to know if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What did you think about it? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Do you think that it's the worst movie ever made? Do you think that it's the best movie ever made and we're crazy for having any qualms at all? And also on top of that, what is just your favorite Tarantino film? We should probably do an episode about Tarantino. An Edgar Wright, Nolan-esque episode where we just talk about Tarantino.
Yeah, I'm a basic bitch who loves Pulp Fiction.
I am too. Yeah. But anyways, just, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you are listening to us on any of our sound platforms, you can instead tweet at us. We are at Starwipe Lounge, all one word, obviously. And use the hashtag Starwipe Lounge so it becomes a little bit easier to find your comment. Or you can get a hold of us individually. I am at Bender Waffles and Owen here is at OwenScott_P. You can get in touch with us either on Instagram or Twitter using those handles. We both utilize the same things on both platforms. Owen is definitely much more of an Instagram bro, whereas I'm a bit more of a tweeter. So those are our platforms of choice. But slide into Owen's DMs, see what happens.
Nothing weird, I swear. You make it sound like something weird will happen.
That's just because I want to see someone try to slide into your DMs.
It would be. Besides a robot.
True. So next week, guys, we are going to be talking about something.
Yeah, we never know. We're the worst.
I do have a few episodes coming down the pipeline that we are actually pre-planned for, but just not next weekend. So, yeah. In a couple weeks, we are going to be having Esh from Fiction Addiction on the show. Good guy. Great guy from Denmark. So that's going to be he's going to be Skyping in episode. Because obviously I'm not flying someone from Denmark for a podcast that has 15 listeners. It's an exaggeration. It's a bit more than that. But anyways, guys, you can catch us on all the social platforms. Be sure to check us out on all your favorite audio platforms. And until then, I hope you have a good one.
Tell your friends.